Okay, so for our next little tutorial, we are going to expand our abilities of bringing stuff into Unity. And last time we brought in these rocks from the asset store, gave them gravity, and let them fall around, so that enhanced our little scene here beyond what we could do with the terrain package. We still can walk around and look at all of this cool stuff. What we're going to do today is look at bringing in items that we create ourselves from Google Sketchup. And so now we're not going to be limited to what's in the asset store. We'll be able to create whatever we want to inside of Google Sketchup. So if you fire up Google Sketchup and say new, you will get this scene with this guy in it. And that's your basic starting point. Now, we don't want this guy in our project at all, so I'm just going to click on him and hit delete and get rid of him right away. You'll notice there's all sorts of things we can do up here across the top, and each one of these buttons has a different purpose. But the cool thing is with Google SketchUp is that there really isn't that many buttons up here. So we'll be able to create simple shapes and simple objects pretty easily because doesn't have all the convoluted buttons that some of the more sophisticated 3D packages do. But for what we're going to do right now is we're just going to create a simple barn, because I think that'll go good with our falling rock scenario. Not sure why, but anyways. So we'll start by creating the base by drawing a rectangle. So we'll click on the rectangle tool. Notice that you've got some other options in here that you can use. We're just going to do a rectangle. It gives us a little pencil, and as you move your pencil around, you can see that it automatically snaps to some of the axis or points within the project. So I'm just going to start it here at the very center and click and drag, and we can drag out a rectangle. Alright, so that's pretty neat. We have a rectangle, which is the bottom of our barn. And what we can do now is give that a little height by clicking on this push-pull tool. And so once I have that selected, I can go down here, see how it's selecting our little rectangle as I move the mouse into it. I click and drag up, and now we've got 4 walls. Pretty neat. And I think we probably should have a way to get into our barn. So I'm just going to draw another rectangle in here, like this, for a door. Not really good at barns, but anyways, that looks like a good door for a barn. And then with the push-pull tool again, now notice that it'll highlight different sections of our little barn based on where the mouse is. And now if I push it in, I can just move this wall back and give us a little entrance into this barn. We can do some more, fancier things with this later, but that's a good place to start. And another thing that maybe we should do is give our barn a roof. And we'll get fancy here. We'll do an arc, because we don't want those rocks to fall on our barn. So I'm going to click here in this corner and this one, and then as I move the mouse up, you can see that it's drawing an arc, and that will be our roof. And just like we did before, we can use this push-pull tool and push-pull it all the way to the edge. Now we've got a futuristic looking kind of barnish building. Now we've got some more things up here at the top. We have this rotation tool. We can spin things around so we can see what else is happening in our scene, and zoom in and out and move around and things like that. I think what I want to do next is give this model give it some material. So if we get your paint bucket, and it's going to pop up your colors, and now we can choose what we want to paint the side of this building with. And we have all kinds of stuff that comes in with it. Let's see, what else we got? Brick sounds good. Let's make this thing brick. So I will click on brick and my paint bucket, and now it's brick. And then I can rotate around and paint all my sides. Paint bucket. and rotate again, paint bucket, rotate again, and paint bucket. Now we have our our walls are done, and then we can put something on our fancy futuristic roof. I don't know if that looks like what we want. Maybe we want metal. How does that look? That looks pretty good. And we'll do one more spot with metal. There we go. Alright, so now we have this fancy futuristic barn with, a door, even though we don't have anything inside of it, but that's alright. And we've got a roof and all of this stuff. So what I'm going to do right now is export this thing. And we already have our Unity project open and running over here. And I created a folder under assets called Sketchup. And that's where we're going to export this building to. So I will go back to Sketchup and say File, Export 3D Model. And we're going to export as an FBX. And where we're exporting it to is inside of our assets Sketchup folder that's within our Unity project that we're doing right now. And we can call this barn. I'm not really sure if this ended up looking like a barn, but that's what we're going to call it. So I will export it. It tells us all the stuff it did. 2 textures, which is right? We had the brick and then the metal. We've got all these faces. And so it looks like it probably worked. Now if we go to Unity, here's our barn. It just shows up, and we can drag it into our scene. And if we run, maybe we'll see it. Oh, there it is. Let's go take a look at it. And that's what we made, right? Kind of small, though, sort of like a scene from Spinal Tap. But we can fix that easily. We know how to do that. So let's zoom in on this thing a little bit. And we can just make it bigger. So here's our barn. We can scale it up. Let's just say 10. And now we've got a much bigger barn. And if we run again, oh, there it is. So here's our barn. And it's got all of our bricks, fancy roof. There it is in our scene. Alright, now let's see what happens. Ooh, so now we've got all kinds of weird things happening if I go inside of it. Because now we're inside of it, it doesn't really know what to do. We shouldn't be inside of there because this is a barn. We shouldn't be able to walk through walls. So we can fix that. And there's a quick way to fix that, which is if we look at our rocks, we've got colliders on it. And so if we give this barn a collider, then when we walk into it, we'll just kind of crash into the wall and we won't do anything. So let's select our barn over on the left, and then on the right, if we click Add Component, Physics, Box Collider, it's going to create this little cube. And what we need to do right now is just sort of draw this cube around our barn. And so I'll just click and drag on the X over here in the Box Collider to move it. We can make it bigger. And you want this to pretty much just surround your box of your barn. And so let's change some of the scales here and then change some of the positioning. I guess really the height doesn't really matter in this case. Unless we want to have our rocks actually fall out. So this box collider is really easy. It's really fast for the physics engine to calculate collisions, because it's only got the 6 sides of this cube. You can use a mesh collider, which will be, perfect, and it will go inside these doors and have a curved thing on the roof and all that sort of stuff. And you can do that. But for just simplicity's sake, we're going to use this box collider. And let's see. So here's our box collider. It's not perfectly centered, but that's okay because I want to show you what it's going to do. So in the front, we've got it kind of sticking out a little bit. On this left side, we're okay. sticks out, and it doesn't quite go all the way on the right side. So if we run, let's see, let's go to the front. And if we crash into it, we can't, I'm walking as hard as I can go and I can't get into this thing. And if I come over to the left, I can walk alongside this wall and I can't get into it. Now over here, this will be interesting. I go in here and now I'm stuck. So I can't go forward anymore, but it looks bizarre. The reason is because my collider was inside this wall. So I made an insider model and then I stopped. And what I need to do is, if I make our collider a little bit more accurate, see how it's, doesn't take up, I mean, it's just not exactly centered. I can move it over, make it a little bit better, and then go back this way. And we need to make it a little bit deeper, so let's position our Z. Actually, Z needs to be bigger. Move it back. And now, as we spin around, all of our sides are covered now. So now, if I go out there and try to run, I'm not going to end up going inside of it. So this is just a very, very simple shape. We gave it materials. We're able to import it into Unity, and that's it. I mean, we should probably make this look a little bit nicer, and we can get into that more details later. This, we could have textured the inside of this doorway and make it a little bit nicer. We could have completely built the inside of this barn so that we could go in and walk around inside of it, but I was just trying to show you how to do something very quick. So that's the basics of creating something inside of Sketchup and bringing it into Unity. You can do the same thing if you have, let's see, can we jump over here? No, not enough. If you have something you want to get from Google Warehouse, you can bring it in SketchUp, export it as an FBX, and then bring it right in here. So that's that.